Welcome, everybody, to day 11 with Enlightened Women, Enlightened You Summit. I'm Dr. Ruth Anderson, and I am so pleased to share with you Pamela Olivia Brown. So Pamela is here with us from the East Coast today, and she is sharing an amazing video. It was such fun for me to interview her. Let me tell you how Archangel Michael works. So probably 2.5 years ago, I think, Pamela was doing a show on International Angels Network. And it was a short stint, but Archangel Michael had me also do a stint with International Angels Network. And I did actually a year, but there was about 2 weeks of overlap, I think, when Pamela had her show and I had my show. And so I was made aware of her. I knew the name, and I was intrigued by who she was. And then here we go 2 years later, when I'm sitting with Archangel Michael and I'm saying, who am I supposed to interview for this summit? And I hear Pamela Olivia Brown. And well, I hadn't thought of Pamela Olivia Brown since 2 years ago doing the radio show. So I believe Pamela's going to teach us about spiritual breadcrumbs. I think that he was dropping spiritual goosebumps on that, spiritual breadcrumbs for this moment to happen a couple of years ago, when we happened to be on the International Angels Network radio show at the same time. So it's so cool to see how spirit works. So Pamela, do you want to say hello to everybody who's here?
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon.
And I know everybody's just going to want to take in the visual feast that you are providing here with all of this color. And as I was coming downstairs into my office to prepare for this, I asked, well, so what quilt should I have up for today? And I heard lots of color. So I put this, and then I turn on Pamela, and here she is in all of this color. So it's a joyous time in the ethereal realm today. So I want to share with you a couple of things before we get started. Number one, the anthologies are coming up. So anthologies are books where everybody can submit a chapter. Everybody gets to become a published author. The deadline for these chapters are September 22nd. And that's only if we want to actually have them ready for under the Christmas. Now, Archangel Michael had shown me not one anthology, but two. And the reason being that I was shown that there would be a lot of people that wanted to become authors and put their voice out into the world as a spiritual leader. And of course, all we can share is those experiences that we've had ourselves. So when you do that, then you are a spiritual leader. So if you're interested at all in writing a chapter for the anthologies, check out on our Facebook group, or check your old emails, or write to us that, and I don't know the address, it's like welcome at Enlightened, I'll find that. But check in with us, because we would love so much to have your voice in the anthology. Second thing that I want to share with you is that I was reminded again this morning that we are all learning during this summit. I know for me, the learning curve has been about like this, and it's all welcome. It isn't all easy, but it's all welcome. And what I was told was that the name, the summit, in the case of this summit, is kind of a misnomer. That really, this should have been called Journey to the Summit. Because when you say goosebumps, when you say the summit, it assumes that you're already at the top. And we are 20 days away from the top. And there is so much that can happen between now and October 1st that we are all on a journey to the summit. And I have seen incremental growth in many people involved in this summit. Pamela was talking about that. Terry was talking about that. Linda Dirks was talking about that. Maria was talking about it. There's a lot that's going on, and it's all very exciting. And I'm so excited to be with you all on the journey to the summit. And I know October 1, I'm going to look back at September 1, and I'm going to think, I am a completely different person for the experiences that I've had in those 31 days. Thank you for being along for the ride. And with that, Terry Angel is going to give us an intention for the day.
Thank you, Ruth. It's so great to be here again today. Welcome everyone who's coming on the live. So let's join our hearts together. Just touch your heart center gently and bring your focus there and slow down your breathing. Take in a slow, deep breath in, deep breath out, and then add in some gratitude in there, something that really feels good inside. And I'm going to read the intention, and then afterward, I will lead us in a moment of silence. It is our intention here today that through Divine Mother's love, we will join our hearts together and let Archangel Michael lift us up to our highest potential, which is unlimited. We bond together to grow and support each other unconditionally, with no agenda other than wanting the very best for all. We send a wave of love out into the universe and ask that it come down to touch our beautiful Earth planet, with every being feeling the power of it in their lives. May our steps be lighter as we tread this Earth path, knowing that we have done all we can do to bring peace, unity, and love to the planet. May we be inspired by the words spoken today, such that we leave with a poem on our lips and a song in our hearts. And now, if you would, please join me for a moment of silence for all those who perished in 9/11, all their loved ones, our country, and any nation whose faith in humanity was shaken that day. Thank you. Thank you to all who joined and lifted each other up and lifted our planet up. I love you, and so it is.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
So I have spoken about the healing well that Divine Mother shows me in relation to this summit and in the scads of people and animals and angels that are at that healing well. And as you said that, Terry, I saw passengers from planes. I saw people with briefcases. I mean, it was some of those souls that were killed during 9/11 come to that well. I'm
Yes.
ah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
You're so welcome.
Okay, so I'm gonna get ready here for Pamela.
I'm Dr. Ruth Anderson with Enlightened World Network. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Enlightened Women. So grab a cup of coffee or your favorite beverage and join us. Enlightened Women is a show about women who are living lives, walking in alignment with their soul's calling. In these episodes, we not only talk about what these amazing women are up to, but what they are currently learning as a spiritual being having a physical experience. This series is the brainchild of Archangel Michael, and he has led me to interview each and every one of these women. there's a good chance that he reached out to you and encouraged you to listen in. I have to believe that he is so pleased we're all together. Today we're talking with Pamela Olivia Brown, a spiritual teacher and spirit and healing medium who works very closely with several of the archangels. Pamela, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be part of this. And I love that Archangel Michael co-conspired this.
I don't even know that it was a co-conspiracy. I think he just put it together, and I'm just following. I'm just listening and following.
That's great.
Can you tell us your background and what's brought you to this place today?
Well, I consider myself an empath, and I learned about that when it was about 2008, and it helped me reflect on my childhood, which now that I look at it, I was just riddled with a lot of other people's thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations, and 2008 was the time Spirit's like, this is the time for you to learn who you are, what you're about, and why your life feels a little erratic. And so from there, I joined this online community, learned about what an empath was, and just really found a sense of self and relief about that. But then for some reason, I didn't feel like there's a connection anymore. And so I left the group. And for some reason, a friend and I were talking, and he mentioned this book, Hands of Light. We were on the phone, and I saw the book in my third eye. I'm like, is the book blue with these white hands? He's like, yeah, that's what it looks like. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I need that book. And from there, it was one of those situations where I was being guided to clear my energy field so I can understand more about who I am. And the messages about being empath got stronger. And so by 2014, I had my Reiki level 1 attunement, and just a wash of angel numbers and messages and visions and whispers came to me. And it was the beginning of me not being interested in academia anymore. I was actually in school getting a PhD, and I was like, it's over. So here's my chance to change my life and become a spiritual teacher. And so basically what I'm doing is teaching people my experiences, all of my firsthand experiences.
I'm really curious. What was your PhD going to be in?
It was a program, it was an interdisciplinary philosophy program called Philosophy, Interpretation, and Culture at Binghamton University.
That sounds fascinating. But I imagine that you are actually using some of what you were learning in the work that you're doing.
To some degree, and I think it was more experiential because it was very dense philosophy. But interestingly enough, when I was reading Deleuze and some of the others, the idea of us being an extension of God is something that I understand more because of all of the readings that I've done as a spiritual teacher. So learning that we are spirits having a human experience, I'm like, oh, that's what Deleuze meant. And so that did help me quite a bit. So it did ground my understanding a lot more.
Very nice. Nice. You said something to me before we got started recording, and you talked about, I love this phrase, spiritual breadcrumbs leading to life-changing events. Talk to me. I know exactly what you're talking about, but for our listeners who may not know what you mean by spiritual breadcrumbs, what do you mean by that?
So I will get a message and I will follow it through, and then they're like, okay, now try this. Now try this. And so basically they're just leading me piece by piece where to go or what to do, because I'm one of those people, I'm a bit stubborn. I'm very stubborn. I actually argue with angels, and I'm like, why would I do that? Why do I need to do that? And so they're like, okay, just listen, just try it. And so they leave a little breadcrumb. Then I like, oh, okay, then there's another one. And so basically they're just giving me bits and pieces until I see how everything is connected, how I'm connected to them. how they see, feel, and know everything, and how we are just like them when we're more open to everything. And so basically, I get breadcrumbs all the time, and some of them are dreams, some of them may be conversations, and they're just the beginning of the larger picture.
That reminds me, when I did Holy Fire Reiki and the attunement for that, it was the most profound experience out of all of the attunements that I had done. It was so profound. But Spirit had shown me this particular vision, and this was 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago. I had no idea what it meant, absolutely none. And then, of course, you're wondering what the timeline is. Well, I don't know about you, but Archangel Michael doesn't give me timelines. He just shows me this vision of what it could actually become. But then you get the little breadcrumbs bit by bit, and it might be 2 years later that you were actually doing things to live out the vision that you saw 2 years ago. Do you get that too, where they show you a vision of something, but you don't know when it's supposed to happen or how?
Yes, I sometimes get messages that are either 2 to 5 years out, and sometimes it's a little daunting when I receive them because I'm thinking it's immediate. And so I'll just, jot it down in my journal, and sometimes I forget about it. And then when the impact happens, I'm like, oh, that's why you left that message, that breadcrumb. And it actually makes me think about what happened between the breadcrumb and the actual experience when it actually ripens between those 2 points. And so it's interesting because we need to have experiences between those 2 times so we can better understand, just from, I guess, wisdom or experience, what it meant to have that moment come to fruition. Because I know for me, if I had everything come down and happen that day, I'm like, I don't think I can do this anymore. And I think I would have had doubts and given up the spiritual journey and just probably done something different. But I understand that sometimes we're just given like a heads up. And so when different things start to fold in, we're like, oh, this might be leading up to something based on a dream I had 5 years ago. But then it helps me to pray for the people or the events that could be happening, or just for those people and events as they come to me in the dreams or the visions.
I have been living your life because I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. But Archangel Michael, or sometimes it's Archangel Raphael, will tell me to do something. And I'm thinking, why in the world would I do that? And then about a month later, I go, oh, that's why I did that, because it's built upon that. And if I hadn't done that step, then I wouldn't be ready for the next step. So it's huge leaps of faith in listening and going, okay, I don't know where this is going, but because you're telling me to call that person, I'm going to call that person.
Right. Yes, I can even think about things that happened to me in high school, and they don't make sense until now. And I'm like, you were dropping crumbs since the day I was born. Like, you were really working hard on me.
Wow. So did you always feel a spiritual connection, even as a child?
Upon reflection, I would say no. But looking back, I can see that I had a very close connection with spirit. So I could always tell people where their keys were. I could always tell people where, like other lost objects, I could always sense people's energy, if they were mad or happy, and to tiptoe around people and to avoid them as much as possible. And so I was not aware then that it was something that was part of my life as a spiritual being. No one talked to me about it. No one talked about it at all. Growing up in Texas, it's very Christian and it's very structured, and you have certain expectations. And so the idea of spirits did not come up. And so I'm grateful for the experience of learning about me being an empath and it leading me to where I am now. And so upon reflection, I can say, oh my goodness, everything about my life was spiritual. And I can, really call back on moments where I was really close to spirit then. But as a child, I was not aware of it at all.
You were telling me beforehand about ending up in Paris, which was not necessarily just your idea. Can you share a little bit about that?
So one of the big breadcrumbs was, like I said, in high school, and I had two different friends talk about how they were enrolled in French class. And I'm like, why would you take French? We're in Texas, you need Spanish. And so I made fun of them a lot and, went into my Spanish class, got fluent, dreamt in Spanish. And then by the time I was getting my master's degree, French started coming up. And I'm like, why am I thinking about France? So I don't want to go to France. In 2017, I went to France. I went twice. And so the breadcrumb was, you're going to France. And I went, the first time I went was in the winter. It was fabulous. I was almost the only person on the street because I guess the French don't like cold weather. And it was great walking around, and I was writing, I was drawing, I was doing animation, comics. I was preparing to write a series of fiction. And so I felt that my creativity was just ignited when I was there. And so I was planning to make France my home. And so I gave away pretty much everything I owned and went in June of that year. And I did house sitting, I did pet sitting, and I got to know people. I hung out with photographers, and I just hung out on the river, and it was great. And so it really is where I'm meant to be. And I came back, and Spirit said, you're going to learn more about yourself. And I have. And part of me being back in the United States is to prepare me to go back because I went too early. And they said, you just don't know what you agreed to before you incarnated. Your time is meant to be in France, but you need to get some things done in the United States before going back. And so I sometimes tell people I picked my fruit too early. So going to France in 2017, the fruit wasn't ripe enough. And so I guess for whatever it is that I'm going to be doing here, I'm keeping it on my heart right now, but I do know what it is. The fruit will be ripe enough to go back.
Do you have any idea what the fruit are?
Yes, a little bit. It's still in the lines of being a spiritual teacher and a healing medium, but I am expanding on what I'm doing for people. And it's something that along the Vedic sciences that I've been interested in. It too was a breadcrumb that happened, I think, around 2004. And it's basically, I needed to have my own maturity spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and really get a hold of what it means to be an empath. Because in this last year, I had so many experiences where I had to learn how empathic I am, because I thought maybe for me, I would just know what was going to happen 10, 15 minutes beforehand. And my empathic abilities is much greater than that. And so I needed to have experiences to let me know that I need to really be balanced all the time and make sure that I'm aware of myself and my energy, my surroundings, and just be careful. I mean, not be hyper aware, but just really appreciate the fact that I can connect to people and spaces in a certain way. And as I move forward into this expansion, that my empathy and the other part of my education will be for the greater good. And so that's what I'm learning. That's a year ago, I would say I have no idea. I don't know what's going on with me. It's someone's fault. And now I'm like, oh, it's a lesson. I get it. It's a lesson.
Nice. I love how that evolved.
Yeah.
You can now own it and learn from it to move on. So Pamela, the times that I have done readings with folks that are empaths, it's been interesting because as I've read their energy, I have literally seen their auric field like laying at their ankles, right? I mean, they're just wide open to anything and everything that is coming to them because they don't have their aura up and around them protecting them. What advice do you have for empaths so they don't get lambasted by other people's energy?
A lot of what I learned in the last year, it is internal. It's diet, it's rest, it's exercise. It's really doing our shadow work. It's looking at all of those things that trigger us, any kind of anger, anxiety. First, we have to ask if it's ours. If it is ours, to really ask our higher self, our guides, like, please help me understand why I'm feeling this anger. Where did this seed come from? Where was it planted? Who planted it? Did I plant it? Did I accept something that I truly don't believe and it's manifested into me being, derailed? And so it's really to do our internal work, to eat food that is more grounding, high vibrational, eating more vegetables and fruits, getting the rest that we need, recognizing if we walk into a space or into upon other people and we feel their anxiety, we can give them love, but excuse yourself and allow yourself to have the space to, not be there if you're not in the capacity to have a conversation with them. On the outside, I call on Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron. I ask them to help me heal my electromagnetic field around my mind and my heart. We tend to have our backs unprotected, and so I ask for protection in my back quite a bit. I give myself Reiki every day. I meditate. I spend a lot of time outdoors. I will even go to the park and lie down on the grass. And so it's a lot of different things. And for me personally, singing and dancing really does raise my vibration. And so I notice when I do all those things that I just mentioned, I feel stronger. I feel a lot stronger.
Is that because you're grounded, do you think?
I think it's grounded, and I'm looking at a lot of things that may have been lodged in my electromagnetic field, because a lot of us empaths, we receive a lot of anger and fear, and it gets lodged in our field, and we think it's ours and we take it on. And so we need to do a lot of like auric cleaning. So we need to do like body work or go outside and allow the trees to take that energy and transmute it. So I'll hug a tree and like, please take everything that's not mine and transmute it into love.
So you are really talking about body, mind, and soul coming together to create you in your...
Yes. Yes.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Yes, I've learned a little bit of that in Reiki, my Reiki 1. But I do try, when I was teaching Reiki, I was trying to teach my students to be one with nature, give the trees Reiki. I mean, they have everything outdoors because they're nature, they're part of Mother Earth, but we can share some of this energy with them, like do an exchange with them. So hug the tree, give the tree Reiki, ask the tree to, to pull energy from you. So definitely.
So Pamela, in your work with the archangels, do you work with other guides as well, or just archangels?
I work with the archangels, the seraphim and cherubim angels, and then I work with spiritual teachers. Like I work with Yemaya, Oshun from their Orishas in Yoruba. I work with Buddha and Tara and Kuan Yin, and then I work with spirits that are connected to the Egyptian cosmology. So I'll work with the Hathors and Ra.
Okay, there's somebody you need to meet. One of the speakers who's on our series, Heather Harder. So she does yearly trips to Egypt and takes people with her into the pyramid. Right. So yes, we need to get you in contact with her.
Great.
Have you, in all of your work, have you ever had a time that you thought, I don't know that I'm getting the right information. I don't know that the information that I'm getting is accurate or in alignment, or have you ever had those concerns, those doubts?
I've had doubts, and it was just kind of weird because the information was correct, but it just felt wrong. And so it was connected to me doing Reiki sessions. And so I would receive information and I'm like, that doesn't seem right. And, then I would share what was coming through. They're like, oh yeah, that, and they'll validate it. And I'm like, that's really interesting. And so for some reason, although I find Reiki to be the most wonderful healing modality and it has a lot of wonderful qualities, I did find doubts when I used it.
What do you do with those doubts when they come in? I know for me, I've had days that I went, okay, well, I doubt that. So maybe I'm doubting everything, right? And then, an hour later, I'm thinking, okay, that was kind of stupid. That was, pretty big overreaction. But I know when I get those doubts, it's like, what can I trust?
Right. And I think also, like I'll do automatic writing in the Reiki and I'll receive messages and I'm like, what? You want me to do what? That doesn't sound right. And I think for me personally, because of why I incarnate and what I'm meant to do, and I get everything in breadcrumbs, I'm learning to trust a little bit more, but still I doubt. Like, that doesn't make sense. But sometimes the messages I'm learning for me are symbolic. And so to not take everything literally and to not take things so seriously. And so those are two of the things Spirit has been working with me about, because I've been one of those people that's so serious and not letting go that I just miss the whole point of the message and the experience. And so and so then I'm learning, because I'll ask them, is this symbolic or is this literal? And sometimes I won't get a message and I'm like, okay, like, do I need to reword the question? And sometimes I just let it go and then I'll go back to it and think, I'm like, okay, that was symbolic, but what does that mean? And so they're really working with me to be more patient, to take life not so seriously, and to realize that I'm not going to receive messages as point blank as some other people do.
I love to meet somebody who is as serious about this as I am. They are really trying to work with me on lightening up on some of this stuff, but boy, I just do take it so seriously.
It's hard because suffering is serious. I mean, we really do go through anger and frustration, and we cry and we self-medicate. So, I mean, that seems like something to take seriously, but our vibration is higher when we're happier. And so they'll tell me, it's like, stop crying and get up and dance. I'm like, I want to cry. I want to scream. I want to break something. But I do get it. It's like, we need you to be in a higher vibration so you can receive a clearer message, so you can understand this whole process better.
So has Spirit ever said to you, reach out to this person? And did you do it?
Sometimes I didn't. And that's me, because what's the word they called me? They had a name for me. They used to call me hard-headed, and there's another word. It'll come to me later, but sometimes I'm like, nope, I'm not doing it. It doesn't make sense. I'm sitting here in solitude. I need to have my break. I'm not doing it.
So you never know what you missed.
No. But then, I softened a bit, and they'll say, don't knock on their door, just leave a note. And so I'll carry pen and paper with me and I'll leave a note. And so basically they're just wanting me to reach out to someone who's suffering, like, hey, I'm thinking of you, Spirit's thinking of you. you're not alone. And, you know, so it's like, hey, XYZ, I hope you're doing well. Have a great day. And they tell me, now leave. And so I get it. So it's kind of like, for me, I guess it's their breadcrumbs. So they're receiving breadcrumbs in a different way because maybe they're so closed off that they're not hearing anything. And so for me to reach out to someone, it's like, this is their breadcrumb. You know, do what we're asked and it'll all make sense 10 years from now.
Right. I literally was walking down the street in New York, and there was a woman police officer directing traffic. And I walked across the crosswalk and I heard, go back and tell her that Spirit said, thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for bringing your heart and your soul to your work. And I just got goosebumps telling you that right now. So I thought, okay, she's going to think I'm crazy. She's just going to think I'm nuts. I turned around. My daughters are looking at me like, oh, Mom, what are you doing? So I went back to her and I said, excuse me, may I talk to you for a second? And she's kind of looking at me like, what are you going to do now? And I gave her a message and she looked kind of wide-eyed, but she said, thank you. And then I left. And I thought, okay, that's crazy, but maybe it touched her heart.
Right.
But I think for me, the hardest part in getting messages like that is it's like letting go of the pride. I have to look like a normal person, and normal people don't do that, and letting my ego go. So have you had to let go of things like your ego in order to walk more closely with Spirit?
Yes, and so the word that came up is obstinate. They called me obstinate. That was the word for Spirit. So yes, I've had to let go. And I know I've gone through this process where they're like, okay, now we want you to go volunteer here and go talk to such and such person. Just say hello and, you know, and talk about Spirit the way you would talk about with Spirit with anyone else who, you know, basically are walking the same walk that I'm doing. And don't be afraid of it because people need to know everything is spiritual. And to some extent, I have this little, you know, resistance to it, but I get it. And when I do open up and let go of pride and just say Spirit said this or Archangel Michael said that, and they'll open up and they'll share that they had Spirit or maybe a deceased loved one or someone else contact them. And so the messages or the conversation seems to be, you know, they're more open. They're more open in sharing from their heart. So for me to share from my heart so they can share from theirs. Because I have noticed that some people hold it in so much that they don't let people know that they can see auras, they can see angels, that they hear them. And I guess they need people like us to say, hey, you know, Spirit said this, you know, you're doing a great job, or Spirit wanted me to give you this donut, you know, that kind of thing. So I think that's what's happening.
Right. But you had said earlier that one of the questions that spoke to you was about, have you ever had a dark night of the soul? Is that something that you would be interested in talking about?
No, some of the breadcrumbs would be to go to a certain store. There's actually a metaphysical bookstore here called Imagica. And it's like, go to Imagica. And I'm like, I don't need to go to Imagica. You know, that's me arguing again. And so I went and picked up a magazine and learned the whole term Dark Night of the Soul. And I read through it and I'm like, oh my God, that's what I've been going through. And I think for me, it's the process of understanding what it means for me to be an empath. And so I went from impaired to healthy. And that impaired part of my life was my dark night of the soul. So nothing seemed to go right. I mean, I was in screaming matches with the angels and the spirit guides. I basically became a kid again and just had temper tantrum. I'm like, yeah, so I did have what they call a dark night of the soul. It was really, it let me know that when a lot of different things. So when someone's not there to guide you about a spiritual journey or a spiritual awakening, that you really are on your own. And I learned what it meant to be in a space where you're not supported through a spiritual awakening. And I think that's what my experience was with the Dark Night of Soul. And all of this guiding me to go talk to different people, to talk about spirit, is to let them know, hey, I'm here to help you through your journey. And so it's a weird kind of, what's the term? Learning the hard way. So my experience is learning firsthand what other people are going through right now, because I do know that some people are going through their dark night of the soul, and they may be self-medicating, thinking that, you know, they messed up somewhere, and that possibly, you know, they're thinking of, you know, self-releasing. And for me to step in and say, hey, you are an empath, you are someone who is in need of some support, and I'm here for you. So I think that's what my Dark Night of the Soul experience has been about. Because I have realized that a lot of people I've talked to are empaths, and they have no idea what it is, what it means for them to have experiences the way they have, and how to actually work from impaired to healthy.
How important has it been for you to find your, what I would call a tribe, to find those people that you can really connect with and call them and say, holy cow, I just was shown this. What do I do with this? Do you have people like that?
A few. So I did take, I did a course called Automatic Intuition with Slade Robertson, excuse me, and he has a group where we can talk about everything. We can talk about our experiences with spirit, with clients, and so I can share there. I can share in Charles Virtue's group. I did take his Angelic Life Coaching group certification, and so those are my online communities. But in the place where I live now, that's been very hard. And what's interesting, there are a lot of spiritual people here. They're either seekers, they are practitioners, and there's something going on. I haven't quite figured it out, but it's people are in competition mode rather than collaboration mode. And so finding my in-person tribe has been a bit difficult. There are some people we seem to run into each other, we talk, we laugh, we hug, but it's not very, it's not strong yet.
I believe that will come. I know,
yes.
I know for me, for about 3 years, I couldn't find anybody. And I was desperate. And the only ones I had were Archangel Michael and Archangel Raphael and Divine Mother. And I was somebody in body so bad. And I didn't get it for about 3 years. And then when it came, it was like manna, you know, it just fed my soul. So I believe, Pamela, that your tribe is coming just around the corner, and I would be so blessed to be part of your tribe. So you are so not alone. The other women in this group are amazing women, and it would be great if you could reach out to some of them as well.
Oh, I would love to. Yes. I think also in this new direction that I'm being guided to go with the Vedic sciences, I'm going to be connecting with people who are more in alignment with my interests and my values. And that's another thing that I was learning in this whole process with the Dark Night of the Soul. If you want to attract people, you really need to go within, get rid of all of the suffering that may be yours and other people, so you can get to you, get to your soul, so you can receive those messages, see where some of your repeated behavior that's been good is actually pointing you in the direction that you need to be, so you can attract your tribe. And so now that I'm a lot more focused and trusting that I am going to be reconnecting with people and connecting with new people, that I can actually have a tribe that's in person and online.
You know, I realized when I met the first person that I would say is in my tribe, I realized that had I met her a month earlier, we wouldn't have connected, because I wasn't to the place that I needed to be where it would really work. So I wasn't ready. apparently.
Yes, yes, I believe that too. And I think I'm taking it back to a reading that I received from a woman, and it was, I think, 2016. And prior to that, people kept telling me, oh, you have a big job to do. I'm like, right, whatever. And, I kept hearing it. And then when I had this interview or this reading in 2016, for some reason, when she said it, the messages, that you have this big job to do, it resonated. And I actually cried. I went home and I cried like a baby. And so the last 3 years, I've been peeling away a lot of suffering that's not mine. And so I can understand what's mine and to peel that away. And now I'm like, I wasn't ready then. I wasn't ready to take on whatever it is I need to take on or have my experiences. But now I'm at this place, I'm mature enough to have the experiences that I need to have, that I can meet the people that I'm ready to meet.
Well, and Pamela, there's the possibility that maybe they're not quite ready to meet you. So, right. So
right.
No guilt, no shame. You might be at the ready and they're almost there. So
yeah, definitely. And I did learn that too, because I used to be, like, why aren't you granting me my heart's desire right now? I need it now. And then I came into this awareness. I'm like, just because I'm ready, someone else isn't ready. Because like I remember I was helping a friend. She was in the process of adopting, and she was having this hard time finding, a little girl that she wanted to adopt. And then she came across a baby. They got along really well. And I told her, you know what? This child was born right, around the time you started your search. It wasn't time for you to have her as your daughter. You needed to have all of these other experiences before it was right for you to adopt her. And so I totally believe that. So definitely some of the people may not be ready for us to have our interactions yet.
Right. And I know you can't see it, but there's the most amazing green glow behind you. It's stunning. It's like it's actually catching my attention and making the words just fly right out of my brain. It is so stunning.
Love it.
So Pamela, tell me about the book. I know you've written several things, but the book that you wrote about psychic development. Can you tell me about that book?
Yes, psychic development for everyday living. And so right around the time, I guess it was 2013, 2014, I, was being urged to develop my own intuition. But part of me was like, I don't want to enroll in anything. I want to see if I can do some of this on my own, because a lot of other professional intuitives were blogging about how you can do it for yourself. And so I did it for myself. I did the exercises. I was starting to receive messages on other exercises to do. And so I wrote the book about how to develop your own intuition on your own, for free, basically. And I put all of the exercises that I did into the book so people could, try them for themselves. And you could try 1, 2, all of them, and see how your your intuition unfolds. And so it's been one of those books where I'm like, oh, people need to know that, first of all, being spiritual that's who we are. We're spirits. And that, having our clairvoyance or clairaudience is natural. It's our born abilities. And so I wanted people to see that just having fun, doing different things really does connect them to their soul, and they can hear their spirit guides and the angels through some of the exercises that I put in the book.
And the full name, Psychic Development.
Psychic Development for Everyday Living. It's a beginner's guide. So it's for people who are possibly in doubt of their abilities, who may be afraid of their abilities, or who use them but weren't really aware that they were spiritual abilities. So, Zumba is one way you can develop your abilities, and meditation, and eating grounding foods and high vibrational foods. So that's the book.
Okay, great. And it's available on Amazon.
Yes, it's available on Amazon.
Great. And my last question for you, and I can't wait to hear your answer. What are you learning right now?
Oh my goodness, right now. Oh my goodness, I'm getting ready to cry. That spirit is always with us. Always with us, even when we're having our dark night of the soul, when we're, arguing with people, doing things that may be detrimental, that spirit is always with us, that they are whispering to us, they're planting seeds, they are leaving us messages in dreams and meditations, and they're very patient with us, very patient. And for us to mirror them with patience, to love ourselves so that we can hear those messages, so we can be on our path and to experience it with a lot less resistance. They're always with us.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry to bring tears.
No, because I'm like, and that just everything that I've learned in the last couple of years, and I mean, even my arguing, and I would grab books and just tear the pages out because I was just so mad, and then I would calm down, and then I would get a nudge to go watch a video, and the video would have the answer to my questions, and I'm like, okay, you're with us, you're with me. So definitely, spirit is always with us.
And I just get the feeling, I can just sort of see Archangel Michael sort of behind you, like smile and like this, like, I don't know if you, like arms crossed, like smiling, nodding his head, like, I'm proud, you've got it, you're right. Yes. So glad that you're part of this amazing group of 31, well, it's actually about 35 women over 31 days. And so looking forward to seeing what you're going to be doing in the future, including the work that's going to be coming from Paris. Who knows what's going to be happening there. But thank you so much. You take care.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pamela.
Love the end with the Eiffel Tower, and it's at night, which is a big message to me. So it's kind of funny when I saw that. I'm like, Archangel Michael is talking to Ruth.
Yes, I think that's the case. I have an entire page of notes here from the brilliant things that you said. So I just want to talk about a couple of them here that really stood out. When you were talking about spiritual breadcrumbs, you talked about spirit using you to provide spiritual breadcrumbs for somebody else. I don't think, goosebumps, I don't think that we all realize how often that happens.
Right. I actually experienced that today. I'm not going to go into it because there's a lot of personal information in it, but just an array of coincidences and mismatched communication actually led to an event that was meant to happen. And so I was like, oh, because we were talking like, all of this miscommunication led us to this place. It's like, I know. And so it's like, we are really just being guided to help each other. And I think that's what the breadcrumbs are about, like leaving a trail for someone else to follow, or just follow the trail, even if it looks erratic, because it takes us to a place where we're meant to be.
Yeah, it's so intriguing. And actually what just came to my mind was, even if there had been missed steps along the way, that perhaps what happened today got you all to where you were supposed to be. Right? So even if there were those missed times of, nope, I didn't say hi to that person. Nope, I didn't buy the donut for whoever. I love that. That eventually maybe you're caught up to where it was supposed to be. So maybe if you miss one of those experiences, it's not completely gone.
Right, right. And I feel like spirit's always whispering it to us, and sometimes their messages will get louder and louder and louder each time. And I think even with today, it was kind of like, here's a really loud message, and it really did get us to that point where we needed to be. But it wasn't just my part in it, it was another person's part, but I needed to be part of it to move the other person along.
Yeah, wow, so interesting. You also talked about experiences ripening. I love that phrase, and it's a perfect phrase. And you can't do anything to ripen the experience to get it going.
Exactly, exactly.
Wait.
Right, right. And it's like with the story with my friend who wanted to adopt a child. I mean, like we must make these agreements before we incarnate. And this child really did need to be conceived and born and go through her own experiences and be put up for adoption in order for my friend to adopt her. And she loves being a mother to this little girl, you know, so we really do have to wait for things. And sometimes it takes years.
Right, literally. Years.
Literally.
Yeah. So one of the other things I appreciated about our conversation was the topic about our tribe, and you being yourself who you need to be, so you're ready, and sometimes waiting for them to get to be where they need to be so you all can meet at this plane and really connect.
Right, right. I still find that my online tribe is growing faster than my in-person. And I think it's because like with Facebook and Instagram, you know, all the different social media, we put ourselves out there, and I believe that Archangel Michael is kind of making sure the right people see us, because it's interesting how I meet people who've been in Arizona and they've actually moved to upstate New York, and they're like, hey, let's get together and have a healing session, or let's have lunch. And it's kind of interesting how that works out. But I have been getting this push for years to make sure that I am on social media, because that is where a lot of exchanges and interaction is going to take place. And I can always travel to meet people. We can always have a meetup. I'm always open to fly out and have an in-person face-to-face.
Well, and so much can actually happen without being together in person.
Yes.
It's kind of crazy how close you can get to people without ever having spent time with them in person.
Right, right.
Yeah, very nice. Hey, Terry Angel, is there anybody with us over in Facebook land?
We have a great crowd of people on with us today, Ruth and Pamela, and just so much love and people really relating to what you're saying. We had a lot of comments about the breadcrumbs, and I know I definitely can relate to that as well. So thank you for sharing that, so we can all join in our energy and say, yes, me too, me too. I wanted to read some of the comments. Deb Goldberg says, totally, Pam. We need to be in energetic balance because we are always shifting energy. It sounds like you are doing an amazing job.
Oh, thank you, Deb.
Let's see. There were several comments from people about the doubts. You know, when we doubt what we're hearing, or maybe that voice is so soft. And I don't know, like with me, when the voice is soft, I'm like, okay, it'll just fade away. I'll just wait. But the opposite happens, and all of a sudden it gets louder and more persistent. So we've had people that, you know, I ask, what do you do when you have the doubt that comes in? And people were saying, wait for clarity. You know, just look for clarity to the situation, or ask for patience, so that more guidance can come in. Deb says, I knew from waking up that I had a huge job to do and it scared the heck out of me. I feel much better about it now. I love that. Maria says, thank you for being here, Pamela. And Deb says, so beautiful, Pam. We're never alone. And there was one by Joey. Boriso is with us today. I hope I said your name right, Joey. She says, synchronicities are becoming a way of life. Yes, walking together and sharing, one hand back to help, the other forward to be helped.
Mm.
I love that image. Yeah. And I hope that you can go on and read some of these words because they're so loving and just really, reaching out to let you know that they're relating to what you have to say to us, and just beautiful. Maria wants to know, she says she's in New York City. Do you ever come to the city?
Oh, yes. I love New York City. I used to live in Brooklyn. I miss the city. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Maria's a beautiful soul. I know her personally. So that would be great to see you two connect.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And Stephanie Stafford is on. She says, interesting response where you should peel away suffering that is not yours. Let go. Angels are always with you. So love yourself so you're open to their words and blessings. Be aware of your diet, proper rest and exercise, along with a good diet, encouraging words. So thank you for that, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've had a consistent crowd today. They've all been intrigued by your speech, and thank you. I want to thank you because I was touched by it myself. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for listening in. Thank you for the comments.
Yeah.
I want to share one other thing that you said, Pamela, because you were really quite brilliant during our 50 minutes together there. You said, take everything that is not mine and transmute it into love.
Mm.
And I've got goosebumps saying that. Boy, what a beautiful blessing and an invocation to give yourself every night when you go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. From Reverend Pamela, Olivia. I love that. Pamela, thank you so very much for being here with us today. It's absolutely a pleasure to have you with us.
Oh, I'm so grateful for this opportunity. I love this. Yeah, I'm trying to hold on to the tears, but I'll probably cry afterwards.
We've all been crying today.
Yes.
And Terry, thank you again so much for the ministry that you're providing for us every day with the intentions.
You're so welcome. I love it. And I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
I'm back at you. So tomorrow is day 12. It is Dr. Nancy Tarhart Day tomorrow. And we're going to be having a Facebook Live at 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Is that right, Terry?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And we look forward to seeing y'all there. I pray that y'all have a beautiful and amazing day today. So thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.